Welcome to SB 405D Project Management. My name is Felicia Freda and Aqua. I'll be taking you through this unit 6, Project Risk and Quality Management. We're going to continue with section 2, where we're going to establish the risk context and risk identification. By the end of this session, you should be able to develop a structure for risk identification and assessment tasks on your project. You should be able to state some important risk identification methods or tools and techniques. You should be able to also develop what we call the risk register as well. So to begin off, we need to, as project managers or as people on projects, you need to be able to establish the risk context. So by establishing the risk context, we're saying that we need to establish the organizational and project environment in which these risks would occur. So we made mention of the environment for the first session, and we saw the different types or the different elements in the environment. You need to know where each risk is coming from, because each risk comes from a different source or element in our environment. There are some risk which is coming from our employees, which is within the firm. There are some risk which is coming from outside, in the social context and all those ones. So you need to know where that risk is coming from, and you need to be able to specify the main objectives or outcomes which are required. Then you go on further to set a success criteria against which the consequences identified can be measured. So yeah, this is what we want to get just in case this thing happens. Now we should be able to check or identify some criteria to see that, oh, if we're able to do this just in case this happens, then we've been able to solve it, then we are doing well, or then we are doing the good job in there. And you need to be able to define the key elements for structuring your risk identification and assessment as well. These are very, very essential steps you need to consider when you want to look at the context of your risk. Then once you've been able to establish a context, we're saying that the context inputs key project documents such as the project execution strategy, the project charter, the cost and schedule assumptions, the project scope definition, engineering design, studies, analysis, and any other relevant document about the project and its purpose. So when it comes to the context, this is broad and it's a key document when it comes to your project. So the output of this stage is that at the end of you being able to establish the risk context, we are hoping that you can have a concise statement of the project objectives and then the specific criteria for success, because this is what is going to help us monitor and then see whether we are on point or we are not on point, whether we are dealing with it properly or not. So this is a key element for structuring the risk identification process in the next stage. So once we've been able to do that, then we can go on to do the risk identification. So the sensitive nature of risk identification stage mostly arises from some of these risks. One is the inherent or unknowable. Some of them, they are just within and we don't know about it. Some of them too are time dependent. Time would reveal them as well. Some of them to progress as we are working on the thing, then they come up. Some of them to our response dependent, or what we call the secondary risk as well. So to be able to identify for an appropriate tool or technique to be used, they will be influenced by these things. One or two or more of these would go into what influences. One is what we call the adaptability of your project. So we're saying that the need for adaptability of the organization's requirements, you need to be a bit adaptable, because these days things happen, and yes, you have to make some few changes to be able to still be in business or still continue the project. So it is very necessary for you to be more flexible and adaptable to situations as they happen. There is a need for flexibility, credibility. So when it comes to credibility, which deals with trust in there as well, we should be able to look at the cost for using that method, both the employment cost and then the method itself, the complexity, how limited or simple the method is, completeness, when it comes to feasibility, the usability, you should be able to understand and use the thing easily, and then validity, the results should be valid enough when we use that word method. So when it comes to risk identification methods, the techniques you can use includes brainstorming, we looked at in the earlier session. Workshops can be done. We can do interviews. We can do surveys in the form of using questionnaires. You can benchmark, look at those in the industry who are doing better. You just look at what they are doing right and you just use it as what? A guide to yours. You can ask experts or consult consultants who are good in that field. You can learn from your past experiences. You can use a Delphi technique as well. You can do some site visits, historical data. You can visit historical data to get some sort of information for your decision making. You can do the theoretical analysis, and empirical data as well can also be used. Stakeholder analysis, research assumptions, and the research interface. These are all techniques you can go about when you want to do your risk identification. So once you've been able to do that, then we need to develop our risk register. So unique identifier for each risk. Yes, you need to be able to do that. The items on the risk register usually includes these, but it's not limited to this. First is that there's a unique identifier of each risk. There's data for those identified. There are sections of the project which you would have the description for each potential event or risk that could happen, assessment of their likelihood of them what's occurring, even the severity or the degree to which it's going to affect us when it happens, the grading or the scoring of the risk that's also there, who is even responsible for managing that risk, the actions or strategies that are supposed to be done just in case that thing happens, and a sizing for each risk response or mitigation strategy for those who are on larger projects. So these are things which usually goes into what our risk register. So in this session, we've actually looked at risk context, risk identification, its methods and tools, and then we also looked at some techniques as well when we're going into our risk register. Thank you very much.